Today we're visiting the remarkable Roman ruins of Salona, which is in a small place. It's a suburb of Split, just 5 kilometers from the centre, in a place called Solin. Probably one of the most interesting monuments on the site, which is still visible today, is the Ancient Amphitheater, which is an oval shape. It was built in the 2nd century AD during the strong growth of Salona, and it's assumed that it could accommodate 18 to 20,000 spectators. There are alleyways leading to the amphitheatre where the dead bodies of gladiators were dragged out, and there are also the sites of cages where exotic animals were kept for the barbaric gladiator fights, as well as places where Christians were kept in cells prior to their being slaughtered in front of the crowds. The amphitheatre remained almost in its original shape up to the 17th century, when the Venetians destroyed it in fear that the Turks may return and use it as a fortification. And just near the amphitheatre to the south, there is a cemetery for gladiators killed in the arena, and from their epitaphs we learn their names, origin, homelands and fighting specialities. And there is also the site of a small chapel where, prior to the fighting, the gladiators prayed to the god Nemesis. The site is pretty big, so we definitely recommend that you plan at least half a day for the visit. And if you want to see all of it, and bring a picnic too. Just inside the entrance, stone tables and benches make a perfect picnic spot. The site is located on the Jadro River Delta, protected by mountains and surrounded by fertile fields. Salona was initially settled by the Illyrian Dalmatia tribe. They were followed by the Greeks, who had established towns nearby at Issa, now Vis Island, and Trogirion, now Trogir. Salona was connected to Trogir by the oldest road in Dalmatia, the Via Munita. Walls encircled the town as early as the 2nd century BC, as it was considered an important military centre. At the time, the Romans were involved in a series of campaigns to conquer Dalmatia, and Salona seesawed several times between local and Roman control. And sometime between 40 BC and 33 BC, the exact date is pretty unknown, Salona became a Roman colony named Colonia Marcia Ivlia, Salona. Roman traders and war veterans flocked to the town, and under Emperor Augustus it became the capital of the Roman province of Dalmatia. Throughout the 1st century AD, Salona developed rapidly, The city expanded and was fortified with strong walls and towers, especially on the most vulnerable northern side. In the southeastern side, a forum was erected, and next to it a theatre that held 3,500 people. A century later, the amphitheatre was built. In 284 AD, Roman legions made Diocletian emperor. He was born in or near Salona, and he oversaw the expansion of the town while building his magnificent palace in Split, which is well worth a visit. By that time, Salona was a bustling and cosmopolitan city where several Oriental religions were practiced, in addition to the worship of the Roman gods and goddesses. Statues of Venus were found, as well as evidence that the Persian god Mithra was worshipped. By the middle of the 5th century, the Roman Empire was crumbling as Huns and Goths swept down and battled through the Roman provinces. Salona was first a part of the Eastern Roman Empire, but was then ceded to the Gothic king Theodoric in 493. It was returned to Rome in 535, but its days were pretty much numbered. In 614, the Slavs and Avars moved in and levelled the town to the ground. Its residents fled to the islands and to Diocletian's palace in Split. Basilicas, an Episcopal Center and bishops' residence were built. The tombs of Bishop Domnius and other martyrs became holy places, and Christians came to be buried next to them. Christians set up memorial oratorios in the amphitheatre, where their forebears were probably thrown to the lions or killed by gladiators. Religious persecution ended in 313 AD, and Christians began streaming into Salona to honour those martyred under Diocletian. Towards the end of the century, Christianity took root. Bishop Venantius came from Rome to spread the faith, followed by Syrian-born Bishop Domnius. They were not welcomed. Emperor Diocletian was an autocrat, and he embarked on a ruthless persecution of the Christians, the last and bloodiest of the Roman Empire. Julius Caesar, who was then the governor of Illyricum, gave it the rank of a colony. Colonia Marcia Julia Salona, the centre of the province of Illyricum and afterwards of the province of Dalmatia. When religious freedom prevailed in 313 AD, this Episcopal Center was built. 2 basilicas dedicated to the early Christian martyrs were constructed in the 5th century, followed by a baptistry and a bishop's palace, the epicenter of early Christian Salona. This building complex is near a 3rd century oratory where the very first Christians secretly gathered. The huge archaeological park is absolutely fabulous, and the ruins are extensive, which really shows how important this city was in Roman times. Wandering this empire of ruins is an evocative journey. It really takes you back to the times of emperors and gladiators, and it's pretty well preserved, really. There are lots of panels in English which tell you about the site, what happened, the history, etc. And the paths are really well marked out. It's about a 15-minute unshaded walk to the amphitheatre, so in summer it could be a little bit hot. You need a hat probably. But you walk past some beautiful olive groves and orchards and flowering shrubs, so it's a really pleasant journey. In ancient times, Salona, which is today's Solin, was a huge town. In fact, it was one of the most important towns of the Roman Empire, and it was the capital of the Roman province of Dalmatia. In fact, it was 3 times the size of Pompeii, and it had about 60,000 inhabitants at its peak. It was a stronghold and a harbour of the Illyrian Dalmatia, which quite early came into the sphere of influence of the Greeks on the Adriatic. In the 5th century, a large 3-nave basilica was constructed and then reconstructed in the 6th and 7th centuries, and there are still the remains of the original city fortifications and the Caesar Gate. Although unimposing now, imagine them in the past, surrounded by the 90 watchtowers that were erected in 170 AD. If you're interested in archaeology and seeing remains, this is one of the best remains in the whole of Croatia. That along with Diocletian's Palace in Split. It's well worth a visit, and it really is an evocative place, and you can just imagine how big this town was. As I said, there's the amphitheatre, there's the theatre, the Roman baths, you can see 3 arched bridges, and it's still in pretty much good condition. It's a great day out and it's well worth a visit. I fully recommend it.